We're going to go through some of the basics of using your email more efficiently. Now, some of these tools you may be familiar with. If you've used Gmail before, the user interface will be quite familiar. We're going to go through some tips on how to use your inbox and how to manage it more efficiently. So I've got my email up in front of me here, and if you notice on the top left-hand side, you'll see a logo. Now that logo is always going to take you back. It's almost like your home button in your email. So anytime you want to get back to your inbox, you can just click on that logo. We're going to work our way down from there. Below that, you have a mail button. Now that mail button, when you click on it, you can flip between contacts, tasks, and back to your inbox. So if I click on contacts, you'll see the user interface switches, and this is where you would manage your personal contacts as well as the company directory. Jumping back to that contacts menu, if I click on tasks, it's going to bring up a little task manager on the very bottom of the screen. Now this is something that is not overly robust. It's a very simple task tracker, and you may or may not opt to use this. Switching back to our email, from there we've got a list of folders. Now the inbox is pretty obvious. Starred is similar to favorites, or a great spot to put emails that you're working on actively. We'll go through a little bit about how that works later. Sent mail is all of the email that you've sent off will be listed within there, and then drafts. Now drafts is where an email will live as you're composing it until you actually hit that send button. If you click on the more button, things will expand down and you'll see important, all mail, spam, and trash. Now important, Google is going to do its best to figure out which messages are actually intended directly for you. So this will exclude messages like mailing lists or emails that you are CC'd on. It's only going to include messages that were targeted directly to you. Below there is the all mail folder. Now the all mail folder is an important one because it's actually the only folder that exists in a Google or in a Gmail account. All of your mail is stored within there, and then what happens is messages are labeled or tagged with the various folders that you want them to be visible within. So the best analogy that I can give is if you think of a filing cabinet, the all mail folder is like your filing cabinet. Every single email that you receive is stored in that one location. The inbox is actually just a message that has the label inbox on it. We'll explain a little bit more of that later, but it is important to note that everything, whether it's sent or received, all of your email will live in your all mail folder. Below that is a spam folder. From time to time, Google may think that a message is spam and it'll throw it in there, and so it's a good place to check if you know that you're missing a message. And then below there is trash. Now the trash bin is automatically emptied every 30 days, so you don't need to worry about cleaning it out. And that's only for messages that you've intentionally deleted. Jumping back to the inbox, we're going to go across the top now. So if we look across the top, you've got a nice big search bar, and Google's well known for their search, and so this is a great tool to use within your inbox, and in fact it's a better way to manage your email than trying to sort and store messages within folders. Just search, just use the search, you'll find it's quite robust. So clicking on the search bar here, I can type, let's say I was looking for a message that had the word productivity in it, and I can hit enter or return, or I can click on the search button here, and it's going to immediately pull up all of the results, and you can see how quick and snappy that was. On the right-hand side of the search box, you'll see a little drop-down. Now, if you click on that, you can add additional criteria. Now, this is a great way to help you narrow down that search. And so you can choose where you want to look. So you might want to look in all mail, that's the default. Or you might want to just narrow things down to something you know that you deleted, or something you know is that you had sent previously. So you can choose the location that you want to search. You can choose who you want to search from or to. You can choose the subject line. Maybe it has a specific word that you're looking to dig up, or you know that it doesn't have a specific word. So you could say, I'm looking for an email that has the word productivity in it, but I know that it didn't have the word Mike in it at all. And so that would help you exclude that. You could say, I'm only looking for messages that have attachments because I know that that message that I'm looking for had a PDF attached to it or an image attached to it. And then you can specify whether the file size was maybe larger, it was a large file, or maybe it was a smaller file. Moving down, you can choose the date range. So if you know this message was sent or received in December of last year, you could say, well, let's look within 1 month of, let's go back to December. I was within 1 month of December before or after. And then you can click the search button. Now in our case, it's not going to find anything, but you can see what's happened here is it's really just created some search criteria on the very top of my screen. And that's how the search feature works. If you want to go back, you can just clear it and or go back to your inbox. Moving across, we have the navigation menu. So these 9 squares on the right-hand side are how you can jump into the different Google applications that relate to your email. So you've got your account settings, that's where you would change your password, calendar, Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, and so on and so forth. Across there, notifications, probably don't need to worry too much about this. And then on the far right hand side, this is your actual user account. So from here you can go into My Account if you'd like to change your password or manage your personal settings. Moving down to the main screen here, this square box on the left hand side is going to allow you to select all messages or select a subset. So you could say, I'd like to select all messages that I have read or that I haven't read, or starred messages. And this comes back to our ability to actually flag or star messages. And when I do this, they're going to be stored within the starred folder. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But as you can see, if I click starred, it's going to only select the messages that actually have been starred here. So you can see that third message was automatically selected. If I go back to none, it deselects that for me. The refresh button is a quick way to refresh your email. If you're coming from the Outlook world, it's like the send and receive button in Outlook. And what you'll notice here is it doesn't reload the whole page, whereas if I click the reload button in the browser, it's going to have to reload everything. So it's a little bit quicker. If you're looking for new messages, just click that refresh button. Moving across, you've got the More menu. Now, depending on what I'm doing, this menu is dynamic. So you can see right now it really only has one option, and that's to mark all as read. However, if I was to select a message here, now you'll see that More option has a few additional settings that I can select. So I can mark the message as read, I can mark it as important, I can add it to my tasks. We talked about the task manager previously. So if I click on that, it's going to pop up on the bottom here. I can add a star, just another way to do the same thing as we did before by just clicking on that star. I can filter messages like these. We'll talk a little bit more about filters later. However, filters, again, if you're coming from the Outlook world, filters are like Outlook rules. And then mute. Mute takes a little bit of explanation. This is a feature that doesn't really exist in a lot of other email clients. And what it'll do is if you're CC'd on a large email thread and people start responding back and forth, and you really don't want to be checked into each and every one of those responses, you can simply click the mute button, and those messages will basically skip your inbox. Now, it doesn't remove you from that thread. It just mutes them from popping up in your inbox. You can always go back later and read up on the thread and the updates that have come in. All right, now you'll notice that the menu on the top also changed when I selected this. So we're going to go through the additional options that popped up here. The first one is archive. When I click this, it's going to archive that message into that all mail folder. So again, fundamentally different than a traditional email client where you would simply manage your inbox, move a message into a folder. When I click archive, it's going to remove that message from my inbox, but it will always be available to me in that all mail folder that we talked about here. Going back, the report spam button, you don't really need to worry too much about that. The delete button actually deletes the message, so it's not going to go to the all mail folder. If I choose delete here, it's going to go to the trash, and as we talked about earlier, the trash automatically empties itself every 30 days. Next, we have the Move To option. Now, Move To will allow you to move that message into a label out of the current location. So right now we're in our inbox, and if I chose Move To and I said let's move it to trash, it's going to move the message out of the inbox and it's going to place it into the trash. That's different than the option next to it, which is called labels. If I choose labels, I can actually attach multiple labels to the same message. And this is a bit of a shift from traditional email organization techniques. Using the labels option will allow you to tag or label a single email message in multiple locations. Moving across, you can see that we've got a list of how many messages are being shown right now. I can see that I'm looking at 1 of 6. Now, if I had pages and pages of emails, it might show me 1 to 25 of 1,000 emails. So that's a bit of a gauge for how many messages you've got to catch up on. And that's where the back and forth button here come into play. If you have lots of emails in that label that you're looking at, or if you're in your inbox, if you've got hundreds of emails in your inbox, that will allow you to page back and forth. The last menu option here is settings, and when you click on settings, you can change the view. So you can see if I shift between these views, it just changes the look and feel a little bit of your inbox, gives you a little bit more screen space if that's what you need. You can jump down to configure inbox. This is an option that's also available. If you hold your cursor over the inbox on the left-hand side, you can also switch between inbox types. Now, we'll explain at a high level what these are like. Default is what you're traditionally familiar with in an email client. So that means most recent messages are at the very top, and they're chronological down the list. Now, if I choose important first, you're going to see that I'll actually have 2 sections. I'll have the important section, which I can expand and contract. These are messages that were sent directly to me. And then I've got everything else, and those might be bulk messages that were sent out to a group of people en masse. I can switch to unread first. It's going to organize the messages based on emails that I haven't yet read, with the messages that I have read listed on the bottom. Below there, I've got starred first. So we haven't actually starred any messages, but if I star one here and then I just hit the refresh, you're going to see that message pop up to that section there. And last but not least, priority inbox. Now, priority inbox splits your inbox into 3 different inboxes: important and unread on the very top. Below that, you'll have starred. And that will just be where any messages you've starred are listed, and then everything else on the very bottom. And you can expand and contract these menus to keep your inbox nice and organized. These are more advanced settings. Not everyone likes to use them, but it's something that you do have as an option. We'll flip back to default here. And again, you can do all of that from the Configure Inbox menu on the right-hand side. Below there, we've got settings, and themes just allow you to change your background.